Angel, thank you so much. I want to thank you, Connor, and Angela for inviting me this morning to join you. Um, I've been in tourism a long time and never seen anything so impactful on our industry. We're probably well, I know the statistics say we're the hardest hit industry around. Our numbers have taken a dramatic hit. I'd like to start off this morning, if I could, just give you a little history of our organization, as well as the structure of our organization, which can be a little confusing at times. Officially, we are the Midlands Authority for Convention, Sports, and Tourism. The organization was formed in 2001 in anticipation of the convention center being opened and trying to consolidate several tourism organizations. We're made up of the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center, the Columbia Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the Columbia Regional Sports Council. So we have those three organizations which fall under the umbrella of the authority. Several years ago, we rebranded as Experience Columbia SC, and it's much easier from a marketing from a marketing standpoint. And most destination marketing organizations around the country and certainly through the state have adapted to name changes similar to Explore Charleston or Visit Myrtle Beach. So we rebranded several years ago as Experience Columbia. I'll talk a little bit about each organization. The Convention Center opened in 2004. It has been hugely successful. We have welcomed, in the 16 years it's been open, we've welcomed over 3 million visitors to the building. We normally, last year, 2018-19, we hosted 382 events, which is a significant amount considering we don't do a lot of events on Sunday and limited number on Monday. So Tuesday through Saturday, with 382 events in a year, you can see that we have multiple events on a daily basis. Obviously, that has changed a lot with COVID. We've had over 200 events canceled. I'll give some more reports concerning that in a minute, but the positive trend on that is we've had about between 60 to 70% have rescheduled for future dates. So I do think most of that business will come back, although it's going to take some time to come back. We all feel that the public perception for safety and cleanliness and training is going to be significant in gaining that confidence to come back to in-person meetings. The U.S. Travel did a survey, and that survey stated that over 60% of the people surveyed stated that they plan to travel before the end of the year to a drive destination. Airline travel is still very uncertain, but people are eager to get back to in-person meetings. Obviously, the Zoom meetings have been very helpful during this time, but I think most people will admit that the in-person, face-to-face meetings certainly add something that Zoom cannot add. Getting back to the convention center and our organization as a whole, we employ 59 employees. I'm proud to report to you that 48% of our employees live in Lexington County. So we're well represented from Lexington County. Our mission and responsibility is to bring economic impact through tourism to Richland and Lexington counties. Tourism is a $2.1 billion, or has a $2.1 billion economic impact in our region. We employ over 24,000 jobs in the hospitality and tourism sector. And I mentioned economic development because most people don't see tourism as being involved with economic development. More people are starting to recognize that tourism and visitor marketing plays a big role in economic development. If a potential company is looking to possibly open or move their business to our region, one of the first things they ask about is what is there to do. They want to know what the quality of life is so that they can recruit their managers, their management staff, and employees. So it's very critical that the region and the area has things to do, and that it's a very active community. So we feel like we play a role in that. Our marketing certainly gives us an awareness throughout the region, the state, and the U.S. And the more awareness and that we bring, more people learn about us and find out about all the good things we have to offer. The Convention and Visitors Bureau, totally separate from the Convention Center, responsibility is to also bring groups and conventions activity to the region. But unlike the Convention Center, where they have a sales staff that focuses strictly on the Convention Center and bring events to the building, the Convention and Visitors Bureau partners with over 130 hotels throughout Richland and Lexington County. And our responsibility is to try to attract groups, meetings, reunions, activities that will go to individual hotels and provide economic impact for those businesses. And so while the two are both trying to attract and market to groups and conventions, they do play different roles in where those groups go and where they meet. The Convention Bureau tends to book more smaller meetings. Obviously, there are times when they book large groups that would need the Convention Center, but we're just as focused on trying to attract meetings and business to individual hotels. The Sports Council was actually formed in 1994 by several local businessmen that were aware that the Olympics were going to be held in Atlanta in 1996. And they thought there was an opportunity to possibly attract some of the teams to do some training in Columbia prior to the Olympics. And they were very successful. They brought in 13 different teams that represented 11 different countries. They had the Russian sailing and swimming team. They had a handball team, a Dutch handball team. But they brought in the U.S. Olympic marathon trial for women. And that ran throughout the region and actually crossed over the bridge. The route crossed over the bridge into Lexington County. So the Sports Council was actually born in 1994. It has been very instrumental in bringing sporting activities to the region. Sports Council really thinks outside the box, outside of a lot of your traditional sports. We've brought in, just actually 3 weeks ago, we brought in the World Cornhole Championship. And if you know, that's a tailgating game, bag toss into a hole, but we had quite a number of states represented at that. And it was very successful, considering things we had to go through for safety with wearing masks and that type. We checked temperatures, but it was successful. We also brought in the Quidditch tournament. Speaking of outside the box of normal sporting activities, Quidditch is a game that was born out of the Harry Potter series, and they ride what's supposed to be a broomstick. It's a stick they hold with one hand, and they have to kick or throw this ball through these hoops. And we had it out at Saluda Shoals Park. We brought in over 60 colleges and universities from across the country, including schools like UCLA and University of Texas, actually a team from the University of Texas won. South Carolina and Clemson both have Quidditch club teams, so it's a sport that not many people think about, but we did bring it into the region in Lexington County, and we continue to attend trade shows to try to attract different sporting type events. I'll tell you a little bit about funding. The Columbia Convention Center is funded by 3% tourism development fee that's collected at the hotel by people that stay in hotels. That totally funds the convention center, other than the revenue produced in the building from selling food and beverage and renting out space. So if you are a resident, a citizen of Richland County, Lexington County, anywhere in between, unless you stay in a local hotel in Richland or Lexington County, you don't pay one dime towards financial support to the convention center, which is a very positive thing, I think. The Convention and Visitors Bureau is funded through hotels also, through an accommodations tax. We also have a funding stream that's private money from, we have a number of hotels that partner with us and collect a 2% destination marketing fee, and that helps us with marketing throughout the year. The Sports Council is funded through accommodations tax, some hospitality tax, and then private fees collected by the hotels. So in all of our organizations are financed or funded, I should say, through people staying in hotels. Obviously, with COVID, hotel occupancy is down, so our revenues have taken a significant hit, although there are positive trends that things are moving in the right direction. As I mentioned, we've rebooked most of the business that has canceled, and we've even booked a significant amount of new business for future dates. So all that's promising. I really don't, all the industry reports you read say that, really don't feel like conventions and meetings are going to come back where they were until the public is confident that we've got, the cleaning and safety and training in place, which we do. If you read the news recently, South Carolina took a major hit, a PR hit nationally with the increase of cases, and some states barring travel to South Carolina. So that has hurt the state somewhat and has hurt us a little bit. But I will report that right now we are currently running 47.5% occupancy with a $73.73 average rate. That's down from pre-COVID numbers where we were 62.9% and over $91 for an average rate. A positive thing is we are running higher than the U.S. The U.S. is running 43%, and the state is running 52%. So we're running ahead of the country, but a little bit behind the state. Obviously, the coastal regions are running higher than the other areas. Coastal South Carolina is running about 62% occupancy. And as I mentioned, we're running 47.5 in the Columbia region. The U.S. Department of Transportation, on a recent report I saw on interstate travel, they report that travel on I-95 is back to pre-COVID activity, that travel now is equal to what it was prior to COVID, and that I-26 and I-20 are at 85% of pre-COVID numbers. So that says that people are traveling more. It's evident in hospitality, in hotel occupancy. The hotels along interstates are running higher occupancy than the inner city hotels. But there is a lot of positive trends that we're starting to see, and obviously a vaccine would certainly help a lot, and I think people would have more confidence in holding in-person meetings, and that's what we're hoping that we eventually will get to sooner than later. So that kind of gives you an update on the state of tourism, not only in our region, but throughout the industry as a whole. I would like to give some numbers on. I mentioned that the hospitality industry, which is actually with the Bureau of Labor, is captioned as leisure and hospitality sector. It has suffered the most as far as employment and the hit from COVID. We are from February through June, have seen a 26.8% reduction in employment. It is the hardest hit sector in the state and pretty much the U.S. The lowest impact on employment, I'm not sure what you would guess, but is the financial services sector, which through June, the new numbers from the Bureau of Labor state that financial services are down 1.1%, followed by construction, which is down 1.5%. So those two industries are faring better than most industries. And as I mentioned, the hospitality and industry sector has pretty much been hit the hardest. But I do think we'll bounce back. I think there's a lot of pent up desire to go back to have meetings and conventions. Obviously, we're on a Zoom meeting today, which has certainly been a nice fill in, but I think people prefer to be in person, and we're looking forward to welcoming back conventions and meetings and other activities throughout the region. And we thank everyone in Lexington for the support of what we do. We could not do it without Lexington County. As I mentioned, we have 48% of our employees live in Lexington County. We have tremendous partnership with hotels throughout Lexington County, attractions and the venues like Saluda Shoals we work with on a daily basis, trying to get events for the future. So Lexington County is very important to what we do, and we look forward to getting back to some normalcy very soon. I'm happy, Connor, if there are any questions, to try to answer those.
Sure. Yeah, I've got one in particular. It's kind of like a three-part question, but so we'll go one at a time. They asked how many, I guess, of the small businesses within the tourism industry, do you know how many, or just a rough estimate of how many qualified for the federal small business assistance loan?
I do not know. I do not know that number. I know a good many restaurants and hotels have qualified and received money. I will say that on the PPP program, we're classified as a 501c6, which was not included in that PPP program. There is a bill now that includes the C6s, and hopefully that's going to be passed soon, but we've not been, there's not been any type of funding available to us, which has been somewhat devastating, but hopefully there's help on the way. But I don't know that exact number of you.
Okay. And then just, I guess, in particular from the restaurants or the other businesses within the sector that you talk to, do you know kind of how their experience was in applying for those relief funds?
The ones I've talked to, it's been, I think, more positive than not. I know I talked to one restaurant owner that told me he got a significant amount of what he needed. And from start to finish, it took 6 days. So that's a pretty fast turnaround. I know there are others that may have taken longer, but for the most part, I've heard nothing but positive reports.
Okay, great. Well, and this question is more so for me as well. If people don't know, you do have a great team over there that work with you, especially in the marketing of the Columbia region. So I guess when it comes to, you were talking about traveling as opposed to driving and versus airplane travel. Thinking ahead to when we might be past this point and people do have more confidence, do you guys have any vision or kind of foresight on your initiatives that what you plan on doing in the future as far as marketing for the region?
Certainly, we've already we have a recovery strategy in place now for getting business back, and right now, and these things shift week to week. It's so fluid in what's going on, and you plan one direction and then things change and you have to adapt. But right now we are doing a lot of strategic marketing to a drive market. We've narrowed our geographical area that we're marketing to, because we do feel like people, as the U.S. travel survey showed, people are willing to travel to drive destinations. So those areas that we previously would market to that might be further out and require air travel or longer distances to travel, we've got those on pause right now, and we're doing mostly a drive market. But we do have a recovery strategy in place for our marketing, and a lot of emphasis is on the safety protocols that we're following. Right now, we're checking temperatures as you come into the building. We've ordered, I don't even know how many hand sanitizing stations. They're everywhere. Everywhere you turn, you see one. But we're doing a lot of things for cleanliness and safety. The building's never been cleaner than it is now. Cheryl Swanson, who is our general manager of our center, has done an outstanding job getting the building ready to open. We actually opened back on June the 23rd with limited activity. And we're easing into it. I know Dwayne Parrish with the South Carolina PRT keeps stressing that we're in a crawl, walk, run mode. And so we're probably coming out of the crawling mode and trying to ease into the walking mode. We're not back to running yet, but hopefully we'll get there soon.
Yeah, I got another question. So this one is more pre-COVID. So before COVID, how did the NCAA view Columbia's job when we hosted the first and second rounds of March Madness?
I appreciate you mentioning that, because that was one of the most exciting things that I've been a part of. The experience was totally positive. If you read any of the reports in the media during the event, we had people like Mike Krzyzewski, the coach of Duke, and the president of the NCAA bragging on Columbia and what a great time they had. That event brought in $11.2 million economic impact into the region. We had the highest TV rating of any regional in the country, partly due to being very fortunate to drawing Duke and Virginia, who eventually won the national championship. So we like to tout that the national championship ran through Columbia and the Columbia region. But it's a very successful event. It was a lot of work on behalf of Scott Powers with the Regional Sports Council, submitting the bid to the NCAA. I think it was 89 pages long. We were the sponsor organization for the event, along with the University of South Carolina, obviously as the venue participant. But it was very successful. The attendance was, as I mentioned, we had the highest attendance of any regional. We had the highest TV audience. I think that the TV audience rating on the Duke Central Florida game was the highest rated round one, round two tournament in the last 14 years. So it was very successful. And I think the whole Columbia region pulled together. Everybody did what was needed to impress, from the hotels to the airport to getting roadways cleaned up and looking nice for visitors coming in. We had satellite transportation that was provided complimentary so there wouldn't be any congestion around the center, and they parked and were shuttled into the arena complimentary. We got lots of good positive comments about our transportation setup. So it was very successful, and it was the first time that we had hosted that event in Columbia since it was 49 years, 72, 73, since we had hosted it. Obviously, a lot of that was due to the boycott because of the flag situation in the State House. But once that was removed, we were in the NCAA offices in less than 2 weeks saying, hey, we're back open for business and we'd love to host an event. And they worked with us very, very good. We have submitted, the bids are in now. We had to turn them in February for 2022, I'm sorry, 23, 20, 22, 23, 24, no, back up, hang on, 23, 24, 25, and 26. They're set through 2022, and then the next 4-year period is 23, 24, 25, and 26. We have submitted a bid to host basketball regional as well as women's golf, volleyball, and a couple of other minor sports. We should get notification November the 5th, I think it is, whether or not we win a bid for that next 4-year period. So we're hopeful that we did a job well enough to impress the NCAA that they will come back, but we're competing with, in-state, we're competing with Greenville. We're competing with Raleigh, Charlotte, Greensboro, Jacksonville, so a number of destinations in the region, and there's only 4 basketball tournaments, so you can see there's 6 or 7 destinations all vying for 4 spots. So it's very competitive. Obviously, the economic impact is certainly a plus for the region, so everybody understands that, and we just hope that our experience in 2019 will win us that support for a return visit during the next 4-year period. We are hosting, in this last bidding period, we did also win the Division II Women's National Championship in golf, and that will be held next year out at Wood Creek Farms. So that's another national championship that we did win, and you'll start seeing some information on that closer to the date.
Great. Last 2 questions. So one person asked, what's the impact the Masters has on this area?
Well, it's a tremendous impact with hotels and restaurants. I think it's really increased in the last 5 or 6 years. I think a lot of people attend, a lot of outside people that are traveling to Augusta fly into either Charlotte or the Columbia Airport. And so they finally found out that, Augusta's requiring a 5 or 6 day continuous stay, 5 or 6 day minimum, 5 or 6 night minimum stay, and the hotel rates are 300-400% what they normally are. So they can fly into Columbia, stay in a Columbia hotel. Although the rates are very high, they're significantly lower than what they are in Augusta. Drive an hour down the road, and we're finding a lot of businesses come in, and they may bring 16. There may be an insurance company that brings in 16 of their customers, and they have 4 Masters tickets, and 4 people will go to Augusta one day, the other 12 people will play golf in Columbia, and then they'll all meet back at the hotel in Columbia and go to dinner. And then the next day, a different 4 goes. So it's a significant impact on Columbia. There are several events in Columbia that drive the highest hotel rates, and that would be the Masters, move-in date for normal move-in date for USC, which is coming up, but it won't be as significant as it normally is. Several of the SEC football games, the event that had the most significant impact on hotel rates that we've ever had was the Eclipse. And there were hotels that were getting $700-800 a night for the Eclipse. So Masters isn't quite eclipse to the Eclipse numbers, but it's very significant. I'd say right now that the Masters drives hotel rates higher than any other event. So not having it this year really hurt April numbers for hotels. The event's going to be held in November without fans, so it will not have an impact this year, but hopefully next year we'll get back to normal and the hotels will see that activity. But it is a significant impact. Absolutely.
And then last question, and this is kind of more of a far out question. They said, with the Olympics coming back to the USA in 2028, does the CVB have plans on reaching out to countries to come to this area for training?
Scott's briefly mentioned that. Scott Powers of the Sports Council. We do not have a strategy in place yet, but I'm confident that we'll study that opportunity, and if there are any opportunities, depending on different locations and venues available, that we will pursue if that opportunity is there. Obviously in '96, when it was in Atlanta, it was close by, there were more opportunities then.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to hand it back over to Angel to close this out. But Bill, again, thank you for your time and your insight into the tourism industry. And just thank you for giving us that information today.
Well, you're certainly welcome. Thank you for the invite, and thanks again to everybody in Lexington County for all of your support.